Hey guys, now we thought what we could do was tuck in the FCS since the lines weren't up when I did the Phil Steele Plus into the other one. We weren't able to do that, so it comes up a separate feature. If you have not already taken the tour, I do want to remind you that's up and available. You get 4 free selections this week. You get 4 quick hitters. You get an NFL play. The tour selections are 11 and 3 the last 3 weeks. Do make sure you check that out. But for those of you that took the tour, here's the FCS that you missed. For some reason, the FCS lines were late this week, so we weren't able to have them up on time. Chris did give me his 3 plays. I've also got a fantasy football play for you. And then one other thing that I forgot to mention to you, it's a team that is 13-0 straight up and against the spread in the series that's playing this week. I'll show you that one as well. But let's get to the FCS because it's fun. I love looking at the FCS. I don't follow the FCS like Chris does, but all I have to do is click on these team pages, and I know all about the teams. It's instant, and this is going to be really good when it comes to FCS playoff time. First game we're going to look at is Youngstown State and Missouri State. Youngstown State's a 9-point favorite here against Missouri State. The first thing I noticed is Missouri State here, a poor team from last year. They were good 2 years ago, but they just haven't been the same. And this year they've opened up 3-4. Now, Youngstown State, one thing Chris pointed out, if we go back and look at the individual player stats, and this, like I said, you become an instant expert on every FCS team on Phil Steele Plus. Click on the individual player stats. We see that Mitch Davidson took over as the starting quarterback here against North Dakota last year. So if we go look at Youngstown State, you can see he took over against North Dakota. They had a really good game. They outgained North Dakota State, and then they went 5-1 down the stretch. Now you look at this year, they look to be an average team, right? 4-3. But here's what Chris pointed out, and it's really good stuff. Youngstown State's losses were to Ohio State, and they only lost by 28. That's a pretty good game there. And they had 2 playoff teams, Northern Iowa and South Dakota State, number 9 and number 26 right now. Those are their 3 losses. Other than that, they've won their games this year. If you take a look at Missouri State, they beat who they have beaten this year. They've beaten teams that are a combined 4-17. So look at Utah Tech, look at Western Illinois, look at Murray State. They are a combined 4-17. Other than that, they've pretty much have lost to everybody big. Youngstown State beat Southern Illinois 31-3. These guys lost to Southern Illinois 33-20. So that's pretty interesting. In fact, when they beat Southern Illinois, they had a 323 to 100 yard edge. I like that. They beat them by 28 at home. Youngstown State has been dominant at home this year, winning their games by 23 points per game. They're plus 208 yards per game. Missouri State on the road is losing their games by 56 yards per game and losing them by 3 points per game. So you got a good home team, poor road team. We see Youngstown State's a better team ever since Mitch Davidson took over. Look at this ratio. He had a 12-1 ratio last year, 11-3 this year. So that's a 23-4 ratio since he took over as the starting quarterback. And Youngstown State's only -9 here. We're going to take Youngstown State -9 over Missouri State. Let's go to a red-green game. It is Southern Illinois against Western Illinois. I do believe Western Illinois is at home, but guys, how big of an advantage, home crowd advantage, can Western Illinois have? I think we've picked against Western Illinois a couple of times on the tour this year, and we're going to do that once again this year or this week. You've got Southern Illinois on the left, Western Illinois on the right. Western Illinois cannot run the football. They're averaging 46 yards per game, 1.5 yards per carry. They give up 14% sacks. They allow 240 yards per game rush, 6.7 yards per carry, and they can't stop the pass. They allow 72%. Plus, they can't rush the quarterback, 5 sacks all year. This is a bad team, Western Illinois. All right, now to show this how we've got the team pages here, I want to just show you what the breadth of stuff you have for FCS information. First of all, if you want to know the average game grades for the season, there they are. There's your average game grades for the season, which I'm going to use a lot. Anytime I look at these guys, I'm going to do that. But we also now have the average game grades for the last 4 weeks. It's underneath it here. So you could see the current form. So you see Idaho for the season's number 1, But the last 4 weeks, they're only number 8 at 86. So you could look at the last 4 weeks' average game grades. You could look at the average game grades. And then something else we've got up here. Oh, let's go to the Phil Steele Plus menu. And that is the logs. We actually have logs for every FCS game all year. And one thing I wanted to point out about Western Illinois, I showed you how bad their numbers are. It's reflected here. 0-7 straight up, 0-7 against the spread. They have not covered a game all year. So you've got a very poor Western Illinois team against a pretty good Southern Illinois team. Southern Illinois is 5-2 on the year. If you take a look at who they lost to South Dakota State last week. Now, South Dakota State's the best team in the FCS. They lost to them by 7, and the yards were even. So you're taking a look at a team that just played the best team in the FCS, dead even. We rank them on the season. Let me open this up a little bit further. They're the number 5 team in the country, and they're taking on the worst team. And they're only laying 27.5. And like I said, I'm not even concerned about the home field edge. Do you think Western Illinois fans are going to be rowdy and upset Southern Illinois at the line of scrimmage with their crowd noise? My answer is no. We take a look at Western Illinois here in conference play. They are minus 277 yards per game. They're being blown out by 35, and they are taking on one of the better teams that just played the best team in the FCS to the wire. So you've got the number 5 team against the number 111 team here. We are going to take, it's the red-green game, Southern Illinois minus 27.5. All right, the Ivy League Play of the Week. I did convince Chris to give us an Ivy League Play of the Week each week. He's 2-0 on them. I'm excited. He's been following the Ivy League closely. So let's see what we got going on this week. It's Princeton versus Cornell. Who's at home? Cornell is at home. We're going to put them on the right. Princeton is on the road. We're going to put them on the left. Once again, I just showed you all the information we've got for the FCS. I love this red-green. You could go back and look at the FCS on Phil Steele Plus all the way through 2011. By the way, if you didn't take the tour yet, take the tour. I've got a special up there. It's a 1-week special, this week only. It's on Phil Steele Plus, but you got to take the tour to get that special. I'm not going to show it to you here. In fact, I'm not going to repeat it next week either. You're not going to be able to get the price on Phil Steele Plus any other week the rest of the year. It's the lowest it's going to be all year, but you got to take the tour to get there. All right, let's take a look at Princeton against Cornell. Here's what we got on this one. Last week, Princeton upset Harvard 21-14. So you got to like that. They actually outgained Harvard 327-220. So they're playing good football right now. They were plus 62 yards per game. And their only loss in Ivy League play this year was to Brown. That's a game they led 21-7. They got tied at 21, and they lost it in overtime by 1. So that's a really good loss here to Brown, a game they led 21-7. Now, last year when these two played, take a look at Princeton. Princeton last year played Cornell, beat them 35-9 at home. So we've got a team that won 35-9 last year. They're playing Cornell. Cornell did beat Brown 36-14 and lost at Harvard 41-23. So they've had some mutual opponents this year. You look at the last 4 weeks AGG. Princeton's playing to a 64.1. Cornell is playing to a 57. So even if you add a 2-point home edge in here, 59, you're looking at Princeton by 5. Even if you had a 3-point home edge in here, Princeton by 4. Now keep in mind, Princeton is plus 6 in this game. And the thing I really like about them, look at the defense. They are holding opponents to 1 yards per game below their season average. They're holding opponents to 110 yards per game below their season average. So they're playing really good defense, allowing 256 yards per game this year. Both offenses, Cornell, despite the fact they're averaging 371, is 43 yards per game below what their opponents allow. They're 46 yards per game below what opponents allow. So you add it all up, we're going to take Princeton plus 6 over Cornell as Chris's Ivy League Play of the Week. I said I had a couple more things for you. I'll make them quick. Let's go to the FBS team pages. The first one I want to look at, I want to give you a fantasy player for this week. Coming into the year, everybody was talking about Quinshon Judkins. And Junkins got off to a slow start this year. He must have been banged up or something. 60, 48, 37, 56. Then finally, he's had 200-yard games the last 3 weeks. The thing I want to point out is this is a guy that's just itching to live up to his potential, and he's taken on a Vanderbilt defense, and in SEC plays, giving up 201 yards per game, 6 yards per carry on the ground. The last 2 weeks, they've given up 7 yards per carry. Junkins needs to have a big game to get back to that preseason potential he had. I'm going to use him as a fantasy football player this week. Take Quinshon Junkins of Ole Miss. He's only averaging 4 yards per carry. Look for him to get over 7 yards per carry this week. Take him as your fantasy player. And then I promised you a game where a team has just dominated the series. I want to show you Arkansas State against ULM. This is amazing. Once again, if it's green here, that means that they won the game straight up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 straight. Look at this, 13 straight covers. When you play on a streak, you can win many times. You lose only once. Arkansas State has covered 13 in a row against ULM. Last year, they were a 7-point favorite, won by 17. You go right through the line. But take Arkansas State in that respect. So there you go. Do check out the Phil Steele Tour. Hopefully they'll have the FCS lines up on Thursday. I do expect to put the Phil Steele Tour up on Thursday next week again. So hopefully they'll have the lines up. We won't have to do 2 tapes. I appreciate you, though. If you are following the FCS, look at all the information we have. And keep in mind, FCS playoffs are just around the corner. We'll have you fully covered for that. Thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour. And don't forget to check out that special on the Phil Steele Plus.